Hello, welcome to today's class. Today we would be taking IAS General Studies paper 3. We would be covering the last section of this paper. So let's start with the first question. The first question talks about the consequences of illegal mining. Discuss the Ministry of Environment and Forest concept of go and no-go zones. This is a very important concept that has been recently released by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So basically under this, let's first talk about what is illegal mining and what are the consequences one has to bear for illegal mining. Illegal mining basically means mining in any area that is a kind of restricted area. This is mainly done under either political nexus or under the strengthened mafia groups. The main aim of this is for personal motives, which ultimately leads to loss in state exchequer. Now, what are the basic harms that one has to face due to illegal mining? It basically threatens the wildlife. So the wildlife is at risk. The next is it harms the health. As it harms the health, there are respiratory issues. Then there is drinking water, which is destroyed. The drinking water is destroyed. Rivers are choked. Agricultural productivity is hampered. So these are some of the points that we need to take into account when we are talking about the consequences of illegal mining. Because of illegal mining, includes two basic concepts which was done by Ministry of Environment and Forest. So Ministry of Environment and Forest basically talks about two zones. First is the go zone and the next is the no-go zone. Under the no-go zone, which is considered as an ecologically sensitive area, it is known as ESA. This ecological sensitive area has banned to highly polluting activities like no mining, no quarrying, no thermal power plants can be established in this region. So the zone designated as no-go zone areas by Ministry of Environment and Forest talks about ecologically sensitive areas which do not offer mining, quarrying, thermal power plants. But under strict norms, hydroelectricity power and windmills are allowed. Okay. Now, there are a list of prohibited activities that are under the no-go zone area. The building project cannot be more than 20,000 square meter. Then there cannot be township projects which are more than 50 hectares of land, and then cannot be building or construction areas which are more than 1,50,000 square meter. So this is what is the no-go zone area. Then you have the go zone areas. Go zone areas are the areas that are exempted from certain restrictions. As they are exempted from certain restrictions, you can see coal mining is permitted in these areas. So you have coal mining permissions in the go zone areas. Now all these areas, be it go zone area or no go zone area, are aimed to prevent environmental degradation. So prevention of environmental degradation is very important, and it also tries to curb the coal mining activities in the region. The next question here is, enumerate the concept of National Water Policy of India. Taking Ganga as an example, discuss the strategies which have been adopted for river water pollution control and management. What are the legal provisions for management and handling the hazardous waste management in India? Now, let's first talk about the National Water Policy. National Water Policy explains that each state must have their own water policy. So you have say 32 states, then every state must have a national water, a state water policy. Okay, so the number of states have been increasing. So the number of state water policies are increasing, and these state water policies are backed up by operational action plan. This operational action plan determines in a time-bound fashion that there should be increase in water availability over time in the region, and there should also be increase in water efficiency. So efficiency in production of water and availability of water are the two main things that are discussed under the National Water Policy. Now, considering Ganga, in Ganga the project has been taken up, which is known as SAFF. We call it submerged aerated fixed film reactor. So this is one of the process to purify water, and it has been introduced by Wastewater Management Division, Wastewater Management Division of Thermax, okay, instead of the commonly used activated sludge process. Okay, so this is what is commonly used in Ganga. Now, what are the problems that a common effluent causes? It causes, there are variation in the components of discharge. So the amount of discharge in the river varies. Okay. Then there are technical issues. You need to do a primary treatment of the wastewater before discharging it into common line. Okay. Then there should be control over the small scale industries, because the small scale industries, the discharge by small scale industries is not controlled. And finally, it is a kind of expensive process which everyone cannot follow. Now, there are various kinds of hazardous waste and the potential hazards they can cause on living animals. There is flammable or explosive that explodes out. There is oxidizing hazardous waste that reacts with oxygen. Then you have poisonous waste like arsenic, lead. Then there can be infectious substance, microorganisms, toxins of microorganisms. There can be corrosives which are chemically active and can cause severe damage to flora and fauna. There can be ecotoxics which may present immediate or delayed adverse impact on the environment by bioaccumulation, so they start accumulating in the region over time. There can be toxic materials. They can be harmful if they are inhaled and be carcinogenic. Then another kind of hazardous waste is organic peroxides. These organic peroxides are organic waste which contains bioequivalent OO structure, and they basically go self-accelerating decomposition. So they keep on decomposing at their own. So these are the basic varieties or types of hazardous waste that are found. Now, how do we manage these hazardous waste? So these hazardous waste, if disposed directly into the main river line, would be supplied and would be harmful for the bioecosystem of the region. So what is important is to manage them. Now there are various ways that you can manage. Flammable and explosive waste can be used as fuel. Okay, so if you are using the waste as fuel, you can generate energies by means of, for example, biogas. However, this is a biodegradable waste we are talking about here, which are non-biodegradable. Okay, then there can be another process which is known as incrination. Under incrination, what we try to do is we try to burn out the substance at a very high temperature. When you are burning something at a very high temperature, all the toxicity is removed. Then you can control the hazardous waste by landfills, that is filling up the waste in specific areas. And finally is EIA, that is Environmental Impact Assessment. So these are some of the major techniques that are used to control the hazardous waste in a region. Now let's move on to the next set of questions. The next set of questions, the first question talks about money laundering and the security threats faced by money laundering. So let's start with it. So we have the concept of money laundering. What is basically money laundering? Money laundering is basically converting legitimate money into illegal form. So what I am doing is converting legitimate money, converting illegal money into legitimate form. So how can I convert an illegal money into legitimate form? So what are the sources of illegal money? It can be through bribery, fraud, cyber frauds, e-frauds. Then there can be terrorist activities or terrorism enhanced activities. Okay, there can be transnational crimes, national crimes. So these are some of the reasons by which you generate illegal money. And when you try to convert this illegal money into legitimate money, it is known as money laundering. This money laundering, basically what it does is it develops a parallel market, a parallel underground economy which negatively impacts the development of the region. This parallel underground economy which negatively impacts the society's progress has led to serious security threats in a region. The reason being, in India itself, if we go on to the statistics, we have $2 trillion money which is in Swiss banks. And this is nearly 13 times of the India's total foreign debt. India's total foreign debt. If this money is brought back into India, you can consider the amount of development that can take place in India. Now, when there is money laundering, what adverse impacts does it have on the society? Firstly, it increases inflation because there is misallocation of resources. This misallocation of resources also leads to a shift from investment to consumption, and this worsens the income distribution. So there is an imbalance in income distribution which finally leads to increased economic inequality. Okay. As a result, to curb money laundering, India has taken many efforts, but still a lot more to be done. But one of the foremost steps that has been taken is establishment of FIU, that is Financial Intelligence Units. These financial intelligence units report to the EIC, that is the Economic Intelligence Unit, which is headed by the Prime Minister of India. There has again been an act which is known as PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This act investigates any and all types of money laundering offences that are occurring in the country. The main aim of PMLA is to first lower or improve to decrease the taxation burden. Okay, there has been agreement with other nations on double tax avoidance treaty. So talks on double taxation avoidance scheme, and then there should be taxation of the agricultural income which is currently not taxed in India, and finally we need to curb the round tripping. So these are some of the ways by which you can control or improve the situation of money laundering in India. Now, what are social networking sites? What are the security implications of these sites? Let's start with what is a social networking. If there are 10 people sitting around in a group, they can communicate with each other in various forms. Okay, so that is a kind of social networking. Family functions, marriages, social functions, celebrations are all example of social gatherings. Similarly, there are social networking sites. With growing business in day-to-day life, what is happening is a group of people try to unite over either mobile applications or online applications, and they form groups like school groups, university groups, family groups, friends groups. Some of the major social networking sites are Facebook, YouTube, Weibo, Flickr, WordPress. Then you have other kind of social networking sites, Twitter. So all these sites, then on these are online. Then you have on phone like WhatsApp, Telegram. So these are kind of all social networking platforms that try to spread information about a particular thing. It is a means of advertisement at minimum cost. So you don't have to pay a lot. So you have minimum cost for advertisement, and it basically tries to globalize the world. Now, what are the security concerns or security issues related to social networking sites? First, the fear of identity theft. Because of identity theft fear, any information that you are putting on these sites goes public, and there can be increased cases of fraud, loss of identity. Your personal information can be exploited. Okay, then there can be fake profile that can be built up, and this fake profile can be can have false information and try to fool people. The next is there can be cases of online harassment. There can be anti-national sentiments that try to divide sects into various groups. Then there can be communal violence, fake images. Okay. There can also be ethnic disturbances or ethnic hatredness because of these social networking sites. So despite of bringing the world or globalizing the world, they have lot of security concerns that we need to address. Now the next question is again based on the pros and cons of computing era. So the next question talks about what is cyber warfare. Is considered by some defense analysts to be larger threat than even Al-Qaeda or terrorism. Now let's understand what is cyber threat or cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is basically a kind of cyber threat which can include theft, hacking. Okay, it can include cyber terrorism from a state, promoted by a state. It can be done by hidden servers which can conceal the identity or hide the identity of actual server. So these cyber warfares are done very smartly by concealed identity, and once you have a concealed identity, you do not know from which system the attack is being launched. There are viruses like Stuxnet. This basically targets the industrial control system, and when it targets the industrial control system, it tries to disrupt power, transportation and civic services. So you have hindrance in power, transportation and civic services. Now a developing country like India is highly potential to cyber warfare or cyber threats, which nowadays are being highly used even by terrorist organizations. The reason being, if we go on to the statistics, we can see from 2009 to 2012, the number of government websites that were hacked has increased from 201 to 294. So if we just talk about the government websites where most of the data are maintained, there has been a high increase in the number of hacking in the government websites. Now there is a team which is known as CERT in, that is Computer Emergency Response Team India. So this is a division of the CERT team, which is kind of worldwide team, and the Indian branch is known as Computer Emergency Response Team India. It basically reports any defacement of Indian websites, and this report has increased 3 times since 2007. I do not disagree with the fact that the number of cyber activities are also increasing during this era, but this has led to a tremendous loss of rupees 72 crores in e-frauds just during the period of 3 years from 2009 to 2012 if we talk about. Now we talk about investing in to prevent these cyber warfare. So if we just try to invest in money, it will lead to rupees 45 crore, a very near figure which we occurred in loss, okay, and this has been spent for cyber security measures by Department of Electronics and IT in 2012 of the 7,000 government websites. Let's talk about these 7,000 government websites. Of these, only 3,192 government websites have security. That means that nearly more than 50% of the websites are still not even audited. So you can understand the risk that the Indian cyber system has with this cyber warfare issue coming up. India recently also introduced a policy known as National Cyber Security Policy. This was launched in 2013 and it basically aimed to create 5 lakh professionals. Okay, and these professionals would be strongly dedicated in and have expertise in cyber security systems. The next question talks about Article 244 of the Constitution, which is related to administration of scheduled area and scheduled tribes. Analyze the impact of non-implementation of the provisions of 5th schedule on the growth of left-wing extremists. So if we talk about the 5th schedule, this 5th schedule is spread out in 9 states. Let me mention the states first. Under Article 244, these 9 states include Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, you have Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa and Rajasthan. So when we are talking about 5th schedule Article 244, we are concerned with mainly these 9 states, and these comply to the Panchayati Raj system, but there are definite gaps that exist in the system. Some of these can also be amended by state laws, but the major issues are ownership of minor forest produce. Okay, so you have minor forest produce, then you have minor water bodies, that's the next concern, and finally you are trying to prevent alienation of tribal lands. Okay. This prevention of alienation of tribal lands basically talks about restricting the traditional rights of the tribal people in these scheduled areas. With the indiscriminate acquisition of land without compensation and rehabilitation has caused involuntary displacement of these tribals. So these tribals are slowly and gradually being displaced due to land acquisitions, and most of these land acquisitions are themselves illegal in nature. So this is one of the most important security concerns. Now these land acquisitions which are occurring in the region are making people landless and lawless. Okay. The existing income source, whatever these tribals have, are being eliminated because their land is being acquired. They do not get access to the minor forest produce, the minor water produce. So the income source is eliminated. That is one of the major problems faced by these people. Then there is no alternative that are being provided to this tribal areas. So it's a kind of basically a pure exploitation of the tribal people. There is huge regional disparity, and these regional disparities can be understood by means of the basic facilities, the basic standards of living, infrastructural facilities, then you have health facilities, you have the security and the nutrition of these tribal people. So all these issues need to be addressed with the growing problems in the tribal areas and growing land acquisitions. The last question that we will be talking about today is about the India's internal security challenges linked with border management, particularly along the porous boundaries of most of the countries of South Asia and Myanmar. Now if we see onto the global map, we have the boundary of India. Okay, so it's a good idea to draw and explain some of the concepts wherever and whenever possible. Okay, so if we see into the map of India, we can see that the border which touches the Southeast Asia and the Myanmar region is usually porous. What is meant by porous? It is because of lot of economic, historical and geographical regions. You cannot say it's just because of a single region, but these porous boundaries, what does they do? They definitely affect India's internal security. There is disappearance of the convergence of interest. This was due to the colonial expansion or colonial settlements in South Asia. This colonial settlement now led to a kind of demarcation in Indian society and other countries of South Asia. The most common areas or the most porous boundaries are the sanctuaries. Like if I talk about just West Bengal, okay, you have Sundarbans, and that's a kind of porous boundary. So Sundarbans, with the ocean route here, there can be easy immigration or easy illegal migration of people. Then you have boundaries with Bangladesh. That's again the Chakma refugees coming up in the region. These boundaries not only are related to immigration of people, they are also related to trading of arms and ammunitions. So one is immigration, then is trading of arms and ammunitions, then is trading of narcotics, opium and so on, and all these ultimately affect the internal security of the nation. There has been a problem of assimilation of borders in the north and the northeast India also. The northeast India, what we call the Seven Sisters here, the region here, it's again exposed to a lot of problems of border security. This is mainly due to secessionist movement. Then you have ethnic violence in the region. You have foreign intelligence that is involved. Okay, so all these boundaries, they are the reason for illegal smuggling of drugs, illegal smuggling of arms, cause of violence. It's not only restricted to the northeast and the border with south, this region, but again we can see such problems in the north, in Kashmir, at the line of control. Okay, as we discussed in the previous question, now just not these, but there are issues of cyber securities also that are cropping up. Besides those, there is a major problem that is coming up with terrorism activities taking place in the country is counterfeit currency. And this basically tries to shake the Indian economic system. And they provide huge number of funds for terrorist activities in India. So all these are some of the major issues that we need to address when we talk about the internal security. So as we can see, the paper for General Studies, paper 3, was much more related to the recent developments in the field of science and technology, the latest development in the economic system of the country, and some of the political aspects. We would be covering paper 1 with further details. Till then, have a good day.